So welcome to this week's episode of Seize the Data. We're very excited to have Chandler Stevens from iLink Digital, as well as Anouk, the head of product at Datalogz, joining us today. We're going to be covering all topics related to BI migrations, whether it's Tableau, Click, Spotfire, over to Fabric and Power BI. We want to deep dive into it. What are the problems business users face? So I'd love to start with a quick intro from each of our guests today. So Chandler, over to you to share a little bit more about your background as well as iLink Digital.
Well, thank you, Logan, for the intro and the time today. My name is Chandler Stevens. I'm the Vice President of Solution Engineering in the Data and AI business unit at iLink, based in Seattle, Washington. I actually have a little over 30 years of IT experience. 18 of those years were at Microsoft. And in the last 10 years, I've been focused on the data and analytics space, kind of riding the wave, as it were, as we've seen the emergence of Power BI and other, Microsoft-based cloud platform data analytics solutions. And so obviously with Fabric coming onto the scene over the last few years, it's been a really interesting time and exciting time to be working in this space, and of course working with partners like Datalogz. So again, thank you for hosting me today.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to have you today. And then Anouk, over to you for a quick background as well.
Thank you, Logan. My background is in data governance. My focus has been, in the last 6 years at least, it has been on BI integrations, SAP integrations. I came from Colibra when I joined Datalogz a couple of months ago, and now we're really deepening our BI integrations with all the non-catalog functions, like really user activity focused, security focused, quality focus. It's been a lot of fun to see the data used in an actionable way. So yeah, I'm very excited about this podcast, about this conversation, and really happy to be working with iLink as a partner.
Great. So we'll go ahead and kick off. So my first question for you all, and just kind of to set the stage here, is I'm curious about market feedback and what you all are hearing from customers, partners, Microsoft, of why are companies looking to migrate today? What are the business drivers, the technical reasons? But Chandler, I'd love to get your take on this, and then Anouk, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, when Fabric was first announced, it's been over 3 years now, almost 4 years. I think everyone was really, I think everyone took a collective exhale in terms of, okay, Microsoft understands now the challenges that customers are facing when it comes to pulling a unified data platform together, which I think is one of the primary drivers that I'm hearing from customers, in that they recognize, hey, I have all this data. I really need to get it under one umbrella. I want to work with it with a consistent set of tools. And I don't necessarily want to break the bank. I don't want to have to hire or bring in expensive platforms or scale out in a way that's not cost effective. So for customers that we've been talking to, the unified data platform, also the end-to-end data lifecycle management is another big part of the conversation. Really having all the tools in one place, being able to work through ingestion, work through enrichment, serve that data up in a variety of ways with tools that their staff is accustomed to using, as well as, of course, leveraging Power BI, which is obviously a huge experience in the Fabric ecosystem. And then what Microsoft's been doing lately, which is adding in new workloads, bringing in Cosmos, bringing in SQL Server, adding to the data platform, really making Fabric the centerpiece of the data universe for their customers. I think that's been also a compelling reason that customers are really looking at this platform, and have, as we've seen, really been migrating and moving workloads in, but not just in terms of moving the data in, but also the ability for linkage to other existing systems. So not necessarily having to migrate, but really being able to point back using mirroring or using pointers and links to pull in data from other source systems. So I think Microsoft's got the right strategy. I think that customers recognize that having that single umbrella, that single platform to do all the things they need to do to make data actionable is a driving reason there.
Yeah, those are all great reasons. I guess unified, probably more efficient. You're not onboarding people to all these different tools. It's all within Fabric. And Chandler, I know part of your title is the AI piece as well. Do you think Copilot makes a difference in some of those moves over to Fabric?
Absolutely. Copilot, I think, is a journey. When we talk about Copilot with customers with Fabric, we first really focus on data quality, making sure they understand that, like all AI solutions, the quality of the data really has an impact on the outcomes, leveraging technologies like Fabric. But yes, Copilot is much focused on having that clean, semantic model, along with what are the use cases that need to come out from Copilot. That's an important part of the conversation. And certainly in the AI space, Microsoft's continuing to evolve the functionality through data agents, which was released or announced at FabCon earlier this year. And I would expect as we go into the latter part of this year into next year, we're going to continue to see evolution from the data agent side, working alongside Copilot. So Microsoft's just really getting started, and we can't be more excited to be working with them in that space.
Fully agree. Yeah, we're seeing it. So many of our customers are adopting it with all kinds of different use cases, whether within Power BI, Fabric, or data agents, like you mentioned. And yeah, Anouk, I'm curious your take as well on what is going on right now. Why are there so many migrations happening? What are those technical and business drivers?
Yeah, first of all, I've been a Fabric tester since before they came up with the name Fabric. I was really one of the very first testers, and it's just so nice to see how it has evolved, how it has become this platform that everyone is looking at and thinking, wow, what are they doing? They have the vision. They are releasing so much in preview, so you can test it out. And being able to test this out and seeing how easy everything is, it's fun. It's fun to see the development. And they have been developing for the past at least 4 years now. So that being said, on the migration point, for a lot of customers, it's usually cost. They don't just have BI sprawl, they have everything sprawl. They have data sprawl. They want to clean up their data stack. And where do they get started? They look at vendors that offer a complete package. And that is what Microsoft does. They have a complete package of, they have a warehouse, they have storage, they have BI with Power BI, they have Copilot, they have these agents that they just introduced. There's just nothing else in the market like this. If you are a Tableau customer, for example, then you don't have this platform. You have to use Alteryx almost to have your ETL in place. While Power BI, you have the pipelines, you have Power Query, so you don't need to have an additional license for something else. You can, because it can also integrate with everything. So that is also important for migrations. You don't necessarily have to migrate everything at once. You can do it gradually. And a migration from, for example, Tableau or Qlik to Microsoft is a lot easier than the other way around for this exact reason.
Exactly. Yeah, I think kind of echoing what Chandler said and what you said as well, it seems like that unification is top of mind for almost every company we talk to, whether it's jointly or individually, as well as there's that cost angle to it. It's so much more efficient to have everything on Fabric. And Chandler, and maybe you know the stat better than I do, but I think Fabric was named the fastest growing database product or data product in history recently. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I remember reading it somewhere on LinkedIn and read not true things on LinkedIn. So hopefully this one was factual before I cite it here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I don't have the number in front of me either, but I know the enthusiasm at Microsoft around the launch and the subsequent adoption has really exceeded their expectations, and they're very excited about what's happening in the Fabric ecosystem. I think at FabCon, which Logan, you and I had a chance to meet up there last April, I remember hearing that event was the next to outside of Build was the largest Microsoft event, and so there's just so much enthusiasm and so much energy around this platform, and I think it's because, as Anouk mentioned, it is a open discussion with what Microsoft's doing, and they've been very, very open with their customers, open with their partners in terms of the roadmap. I like to think of it as, with respect to Fabric and adoption, the notion of the Fabric allows you to have kind of this crawl, walk, run approach. So you can go as fast as you like, or you can take your time. And we know customers, they all have different speeds of adoption. And so I think Microsoft, when they looked at building out the Fabric ecosystem, they wanted to provide the means for customers to come in at their speed, to adopt at the most comfortable they would feel when moving data in. And so the experiences build up on each other. You first move data into one lake, and then from there you begin working through enrichment, and then from there you can start kind of adding in additional services for the Power BI semantic modeling using real-time intelligence. So Microsoft's really built a platform that allows customers to adopt at their speed, but also provides accelerators to help them move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's also look at our licensing model. You don't pay per user, you pay for the data that you actually have in Fabric. So that's reasonable. People understand that, well, I have this amount of data, of course I have to pay for it. But having users that then not really use the product as much, that's a lot of money that is basically never used. While for data, you can make a case for it.
Exactly. And so we talked a little bit about the business impact of why people are moving over to Fabric. But now to get a little bit more tactical, I'd love to actually get into the weeds of what a migration looks like. So let's start with a hypothetical, we'll call it customer A, comes to you, iLink plus Datalogz, and says, hey, we want to start migrating all of our Qlik environments, Tableau environments over to Fabric and Power BI, as well as SAP and other systems. So I'd love to hear both of you all kind of thought process on how you would normally approach this, whether it's from scoping, assessments, actually executing the migration, and just get a little bit of flavor of what that actually looks like in reality. But Anouk, I'll turn it over to you first on kind of your take there, and then Chandler would love for you to follow up.
Yeah, this is a little bit in line with what I just said about the licensing model. You pay for the data, so you should only migrate the data that you really care about. So first of all, clean up your environment. How do you clean up your environment? Datalogz has a lot of monitors. We can build an assessment that shows you all of your high-value data, and then per complexity level, how easy it will be to migrate. And when you look at just the data, you will see that migrating is actually not that expensive and not that difficult. But with starting on the migration process without this data is going to be very painful. Everyone knows that migrations are long and expensive. But if you have the data and you know what to move, then it will be a lot easier. And that's what we do. That's what Datalogz helps with.
Awesome.
And then, of course, that's what iLink uses as well. If they know what data to actually migrate, they can build a plan.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think the biggest part of a migration is just understanding what's the lift going to be for the customer. And when you talk to customers about their legacy BI platforms, some have a handle on it. Others, if it's a customer that maybe hasn't had governance or maybe hasn't really practiced controls around migration or controls around deployment, they might not really know what they have. They know they have something. They know they have reports out there that are being leveraged across all levels of the organization, but they may not really understand what's the level of usage, how much benefit or how much usage are those reports seeing. And so I think one of the great things about the partnership we have with Datalogz is the tooling and the data we can pull from the environment to say, okay, here's what your profile looks like. Here are your quote unquote power users who are really highly leveraging assets in the BI system. And by the way, there are also reports that haven't been looked at in over a period of time. So really kind of understanding the rationalization and really helping the customer take a look at, okay, when you move to a new BI platform in a migration, you don't have to necessarily move everything. It's like moving into a new house. You don't necessarily take all the furniture you have, because the new house might be a different size, it might be a different, a different style, and so forth. So you want to make sure that the customer understands, okay, in a migration, let's migrate what's most important. Data is a part of that. The data sources and understanding, migrating those into, Fabric for a Power BI migration, that's a very big part of the conversation. And the great thing is with the tooling that Datalogz provides us in working with customers, we get a very good view of that, and we can help customers make some decisions that are going to save time and, most importantly, reduce complexity. Because you also have an opportunity to take potential complex BI solutions and move them into Fabric and take some of the complexity out, take some of that technical debt away as well. And so those are all things that we look at when we first get started, talking with customers about a migration. Once you get past the business discussions, right? Okay, cost, whatever that might be, that's impacting or having the customer make that decision. We then kind of take a step through, okay, let's really unpack what's in your BI environment today. What should we focus on as priority items? What are the high priority items and high complexity items that need to be moved, and focus on that, and then work through the other backlog of items that we uncover in that assessment.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just the data, it's also users and user activity. That you have to move your users. With our Entra ID integration, we know who belongs to which department. That also means which data belongs to which department. So it also helps with the migration to know where reports or where data sets should land.
Absolutely. And I think the tooling that's provided as part of the Datalogz iLink partnership, we then can have a change management conversation, because that's a big part of this as well. When you're moving from a legacy BI to something like Power BI, you invariably have the need to sit down with maybe a segment of users and help them through that transition. When they log off their systems on Friday, and come back on Monday, they're in the new world. And so you want to make sure that cutover is smooth, and that they can have productive use of Power BI in a quick amount of time. So change management, leveraging again the metadata and the data we extract from the legacy platform, helps us understand where to concentrate efforts to drive that effective change management.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody likes change. So having this, making sure that the report has been moved to a workspace and that same people have access to that report, it's gonna make a major difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like, I guess, a lot of these migrations, there's the, call it pre-scoping exercise, which I think we talked a lot about. There's how do we get business stakeholder alignment, and there's the technical side of actually executing the migration. But one kind of challenge that we've seen at a few different customers, and I imagine, Chandler, you've probably seen this a ton more than we have, is there's almost always people in a company who are pushing back whatever change or new tool that is happening. So Anouk, I think you brought up a good point of people don't necessarily love change, and shifting your Tableau environment to a Power BI is that is a big change. You've been using one tool the last 5 years. Every day these reports are being built. So how do you navigate that social angle in these migrations? Because at the end of the day, we need users not just to move, we need them to adopt and be successful on the new tool. Is that training? Is that done kind of ramping up slowly? Is it a few dashboards, or how do you even approach that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think oftentimes you can take a couple different approaches, and some of it is, what is the outcome? What does the new world look like? And kind of focusing on, here are things that your existing platform is limited or cannot do. And you mentioned Copilot at the beginning of our conversation today. That's a big part of this discussion. There really isn't a like-for-like, Copilot experience. When talking about Tableau, for example, there's not really a Copilot for Tableau today. So I think you have to sort of talk through, okay, here are the new capabilities that are coming about, and really focusing more on how does that help them at the end of the day do their job? How does it help them be more efficient, more effective in decision making? And so if you start with that outcome and really take them through the art of the possible, take them through, here is what this new platform provides you from an experience perspective, from a, for the ability for the individual to make, better decisions, faster decisions and the like. That's one way to go about it. Now, certainly you do have to bring in training, you do have to bring in enablement, and iLink provides those services as well. We provide services that help both developers, which we haven't really talked too much about developers yet, but we also help the end users. And both, by the way, both audiences are super important in this conversation. For report developers and for the data engineers, again, going back to what we were talking about with Fabric, having that one experience, that one unified platform is super important for them. For the end user, it's really all about how can I do my job more effective? How can I provide, better decisions? And showing them how to do that in the new world is important. Also, the ability to take reports that they use every day and maybe help them kind of think through evolving those reports. Sometimes I think users who are on a platform for a long time, they get stuck. They get in a rut. They don't necessarily know or understand how to break out and maybe leverage new ways of looking at their data. And so I think Power BI provides the ability to do that. So if you can show them, okay, here's how you can make your world much better. And also here's some interesting things you can do of your data. For example, talk to data, the classic talk to your data scenario where I want to be able to use like a chat GPT interface and just have a conversation about my supply chain or have a conversation about what's happening in my business. Again, taking them through those experiences and helping them understand that this platform really does open up a whole new world of opportunity and efficiencies in decision making.
Yeah, I have to say that semantic layer that Microsoft can provide is just, it's amazing. I have a couple of BI data engineering friends, and they always complain about the fact that they build these nice dashboards and reports, and then they always have to explain it to the business user who gave them the assignment in the first place. And just having the semantic layer, the Copilot semantic layer as well, it just makes their job so much easier.
Absolutely. And I'll add one more thing. When we talk about Power BI and the Fabric ecosystem, let's not forget Power Apps, because there is an application element to this as well. And again, it talks to the expansion of capability, the expansion of opportunity. Once this data is in Fabric and once the data is in a semantic model, there are ways to build applications on top of that. And again, it's all about efficiency and driving productivity for these users. Building Power Apps around, using that Power Platform ecosystem is a big part of the discussion. And again, it provides opportunities for organizations to really rethink how they work with data. The days of just doing a download to Excel to a CSV file and then working with offline data, that doesn't really work very well in today's modern world. You need data that's connected. You need data that's curated. You need data that is that's accurate. And so building this ecosystem, Fabric is a big part of that, and then Power Platform provides another means for users to work with that information.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're seeing as well as Power BI, Power Apps of all the different components that go into Fabric, is companies are so excited really around them. And as these migrations happen, I'm curious your take on kind of what are the biggest challenges or problems that most companies face, and how can they be mitigated throughout migrations?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with respect to migration, some of the bigger challenges, honestly, a little bit of what we talked about earlier, there's resistance to change. Usually these are not technology problems. These are usually process and the way the organization treats data. That's usually the problem. And when we look at a migration, we always start first thinking about, okay, let's set aside the reports. Let's focus on the underlying data sources and what does that data represent? And more importantly, how does that data need to be, landed? And so some of the bigger challenges we see are restraints or constraints on the legacy systems themselves that we're needing to pull data from. And so the data engineering, it goes away from a migration into more of a data engineering discussion around, well, how do we stage your data in a way where it's effectively can be leveraged inside of this ecosystem that is Fabric and Power BI. I think also some of the other challenges have to do with understanding the governance. Some organizations really struggle or had limited governance in their existing legacy systems. And so when you're moving into Power BI or into Fabric, there's an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to bring governance with that. And sometimes organizations, I think, when they think of governance, they take a tact of, well, that's a lockdown environment. We don't want to lock down our environments. We want our users to be able to get to the data. True, but you can still have governance and still have the ability for users to be, able to go in and work with data in a native way. And so that balance is important. So when we're thinking through some of the bigger challenges, it's really working with, whatever existing governance is in place, and then honestly enhancing that governance, because again, you want to build an ecosystem that is, got data in a secured, privatized way, as well as the ability for users to get to the information without having to go through a lot of hurdles. I think that one of the things that we see also is the notion of what reporting is. And the challenge there is, well, we've always done it this way, and our team needs to see the data this way, which is fine. But again, you need to kind of break away from, well, this is the way we've always done it. Fabric provides the opportunity to kind of work with the data in unique and different ways. And again, going back to Copilot and some of the AI functionality, there's opportunities to do that as well. So sometimes it's a challenge of just getting past I want to be able to do all these things, or I should say, I want to be able to use my data in the same way I always have, but then helping the customer understand that, well, there are different ways of going about this, accessing data, and not necessarily just through a standard tabular, report that, you see every day, and whether or not you make decisions on that. I think also processes are important here as well. We've worked with customers in the past that feel that they have to email their reports to their users. And I don't know about either one of you, I get enough email. I really don't want to open up an email and look at a report. So kind of breaking the mold and breaking some of those processes, or helping customers understand that in 2025, nobody really wants to get a report in email. They want to be able to go to a service or go to a dashboard and work with the data on their terms. So again, some of the challenges are just kind of helping organizations, kind of break through some of those mindsets.
Yeah, I love that governance example. It's something I don't think about as being a part of migrations, but we see it all the time in any BI environment. Like, we had a client scenario once where someone took a CSV of salary information, uploaded this into a BI environment, and then opened up where anyone with the link could access it. It started getting passed around, and then they had unionized employees go and download this information and use it in negotiations. And it's things like that these problems have probably existed for years. Like, BI for a long time has kind of been a either free for all, or at the flip side, we see a few customers where it's locked down. There's a month-long ServiceNow ticket queue to publish a dashboard. But where's that kind of happy medium with you have guardrails in place for self-service? You're still enabling users, but have that governance. And then, Anouk, I'd love your take on the challenges in BI migrations.
Yeah, of course. Chandler, you brought up a lot of really good points. It's too much to jump into everything. The first thing was about the change management. And also for our data engineering friends, it's also a change migrating from any tool to, for example, a Power BI, because of the DAX language, even though it's also used in Excel. So many people actually know it without realizing that they know it. But also with Power Queries, the fact that Power BI prefers the star schema over a tabular report. So there are options. You also have the RDL reports if you really want to use them in Power BI. But this change management, it's always going to be a little hard. That's actually the reason why we started building a BI similarity tool. BI similarity is actually, you don't want duplicates unless you are migrating. If you're migrating from, let's say, Tableau to Power BI, you want a tool that says, well, looking at your data, looking at all the data, you have a really high similarity score, meaning that you can safely archive one and send your users to use the other one. Then the governance piece is also really, really important, really great. The fact that many legacy tools don't have governance, or there is just not really, it's not well governed, means that there is a lot of BI sprawl. And if you then start migrating, you're migrating data that shouldn't be migrated in the first place, because you're just creating more confusion. But that's the pre-migration experience that we already talked about. So let's go to the post-migration experience. Now that you have migrated, you still need to have that governance in place, because otherwise you will just create the same confusion, the same BI sprawl, just an explosion of reports. And it's like Logan said, you need to have it's not white or black, it's gray. You need to have a little bit of flexibility, but you need guardrails so that your users don't create 1,000 different reports and have introduce a lot of security issues. That's there will always be a need for governance tools, not just governance, but also more on the security side, the cost side. You need something that monitors your environment, because otherwise it's just easy to get lost. And as we said before, you pay for the data. If you have BI sprawl, you have data sprawl, and that means you're just paying for stuff that you shouldn't be paying for.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we have time for one last question. So I'm just curious to kind of close out here on any final thoughts that you want to share with anyone listening around BI migrations, that may come to mind that we haven't covered yet.
Well, I'll offer a couple. First off, it's important to have success criteria defined. When you're thinking through a migration, what does the end state need to look like? What are the criteria that demonstrate success for the organization? And that could come in many forms. That could be, we're able to, get a more consolidated view of our ERP, or we're able to get better analysis on data, because now, instead of having maybe a fragmented BI solution, we now have a consolidated BI solution. So having the success criteria is important. I want to go back to also the governance side as well. Definitely a big part of that is the governance at the end of the journey. It's not really the end of the journey, because really the journey is just getting started. And I think that's why Datalogz is so important when we work with our customers, in that having the ability to see what's happening inside the BI ecosystem within the organization, which is something that I know Datalogz, you all do very, very well. And that's why we're super excited to be partnering with you. But I think at the end of the day, that criteria, the governance, and then ultimately, it's all about productive use. It's all about helping users do better, do more work with data. Because we know in 2025 we live in a data-centric world. So having the right investments in place is important, and a migration should allow you to remove some of the technical debt, or data debt, as I like to call it, away, and just focus on the important things that need to be persistent and present in the new environment.
My only takeaway is, don't start your migration without the data to back up your migration. And that's what the both of us do very well, I think. We help our customers work through their migration by providing them the data, what they need, the steps to get through it. We help and support them. And that is exactly what they need.
Exactly. Yeah, we need that quote on a billboard before any migration. It's just to have it up right front and center. Really appreciate both of you all taking the time to hop on today and chat through BI migrations. I know we only scratched the surface here. We didn't cover everything. iLink also has a migration accelerator tool that we didn't have a chance to cover, but eventually we want to dive in and talk about that. I think this is a 3-part series where we'll be doing a few more conversations with different folks around BI migrations. So stay tuned on what's next. And as well, we will also, I think, the Datalogz and iLink team be at Fabric Conference in Europe, so FabCon in a few weeks in September. And we're planning some sort of Ask the Expert session for a couple hours on BI migrations where you can stop by, pick iLink's brain, pick Anouk's brain around, hey, we have this scenario or whatever obscure BI tool. I'm sure some of these have been around since before I was born that you're trying to migrate over, and chat through those and what that looks like. But yeah, thank you all very much for tuning in today. And it was a great conversation.
Thank you, Logan.